the Oval Office. Flags hang on walls. Men shake hands firmly. The presidential seal shines bright. This is power, or so we think. Harry Truman did not walk into power. He walked into a system that belonged to someone else. The man who controlled it was not elected. No one voted for him, but every senator feared him. Every president had to deal with him. J. Edgar Hoover did not serve the White House. The White House had to work around him. This is not a story about politics. This is about who really holds power. About the day Truman learned the presidency had limits. Limits he never saw coming. Power in America did not sit where the Constitution said it did. It never really had. April 12, 1945. Franklin Roosevelt is dead. Harry Truman stands in a room. His hand is up. He takes the oath. He is now president, but he does not feel ready. He was vice president for just 82 days. Roosevelt told him almost nothing. No secrets, no plans, no warnings. Truman did not even know about the atomic bomb. Now he is the most powerful man in the world. That is what everyone says. The Constitution says so too. He commands the military. He signs the laws. He lives in the White House. The presidency looks absolute. It looks total. But it is not. Truman does not know this yet. No one tells new presidents the truth. They learn it slowly. They learn it the hard way. There is a man in Washington. He runs the FBI. His name is J. Edgar Hoover. Most people think Hoover just catches criminals, bank robbers, kidnappers, gangsters like John Dillinger. Truman thinks this too. At first, Hoover has been FBI director since 1924. That was 21 years ago. Served under 5 presidents. Roosevelt kept him, so did Coolidge, and Hoover. And Taft before that. Presidents come and go. Hoover stays. This should mean something, but Truman does not see it yet. The Constitution is clear. The president is in charge. He is commander-in-chief. Everyone works for him. Cabinet members, generals, FBI directors. That is how it is supposed to work. Truman believes in the Constitution. He believes in American democracy. He believes the people elect their leaders, and those leaders have the power. This is the myth, the beautiful myth, the one taught in schools. But myths crack when they meet reality. Hoover sits in his office. Files surround him. Thousands of files, maybe millions. Files on senators, files on congressmen, files on judges, files on businessmen, files on reporters, files on presidents. Hoover does not report to anyone. Not really. He sends reports to the White House, but they only contain what he wants to share. The real information stays with him. Truman holds meetings in the Oval Office. Photographers take pictures. He signs documents. He makes speeches. He shakes hands with foreign leaders. This looks like power. It feels like power. But in another building across town, Hoover reads a different kind of document. A surveillance report, a wiretap transcript, a secret file. No cameras watch him. No reporters ask questions. Truman makes decisions in public. Hoover makes decisions in private. Which man has more power? The one everyone sees, or the one no one watches? In 1945, America celebrates. The war is ending. Soldiers will come home. The future looks bright. Truman works long days. He learns his new job. He meets with advisors. He studies reports. He thinks he is learning everything. He thinks he can see the whole picture. But there are things he cannot see, things kept from him, not by enemies, by his own government. Hoover built something new, not just a police force, an intelligence agency, a spy network. Right here in America, the FBI watches citizens. It taps phones, it reads mail, it follows people, it takes photos, it builds files. Some of this is legal, some of it is not. No one knows which is which. That is the point. Hoover does not ask permission. He does not wait for warrants. He does what he thinks is needed. Who will stop him? Congress, they fear him. The courts, they do not know what he is doing. The president is too busy, too new, too unaware. Truman focuses on big things. The end of World War II, the start of the Cold War, the economy, jobs, housing. He does not focus on the FBI. Not yet. This is his mistake. But how could he know? Every president makes this mistake. They think the bureaucracy serves them. They think their authority is real. They do not see the quiet power. The power that does not need elections. The power that comes from knowing secrets. Hoover knows secrets. So many secrets. He knows which senator drinks too much, which congressman has a mistress, which judge takes bribes, which businessman cheats on taxes. He knows who is gay in a time when that ruins careers. He knows who was a communist once. He knows who has debts, who has secrets, who has fears. This knowledge is power, raw power, the kind that does not need a title. Truman sits in the Oval Office, the most famous office in the world, but Hoover sits on a pile of secrets, and secrets rule Washington. The question is not who has the bigger office, the question is who do people fear more? Fear is real power, everything else is just ceremony. Truman will learn this. But not today, not this year. The illusion will last a little longer. J. Edgar Hoover is 50 years old. He has run the FBI for 21 years. Most people do not stay in one job that long. But Hoover is not most people. He took over the FBI in 1924. Back then, it was weak, corrupt, poorly run. People did not respect it. Hoover changed everything. He built new rules, he hired new agents, he created training programs, he made the FBI professional. This was good. America needed a strong FBI, but Hoover did not stop there. He kept building, he kept growing. He turned the FBI into something else, something more. An intelligence empire, his empire. The FBI started with a simple job: catch criminals, federal criminals, people who break federal laws, but Hoover expanded that job. He said the FBI must protect national security. It must watch for spies, for saboteurs, for subversives. Who decides what those words mean? Hoover does. He said the FBI must investigate threats. But who is a threat? Anyone Hoover thinks might be. No one questions this. Not during World War II, not during the Red Scare. Fear makes people accept things they would normally reject. Hoover uses fear well. He tells Congress about dangers, enemy agents, secret communists, hidden threats. Are all these threats real? Some are not. But Hoover never admits which. Better to see threats everywhere, better to investigate everyone, just to be safe. This is how power grows, one small step at a time. One new authority, one more exception, one extra program. Before long, the FBI can do almost anything. The FBI has offices in every city, agents in every state, informants everywhere. They watch union meetings, political rallies, student groups, civil rights organizations. They tap phones without warrants. They open mail without permission. They break into offices at night. They plant listening devices. They take photos through windows. Is this legal? Sometimes, sometimes not. The line is blurry. Hoover keeps it blurry on purpose. Congress gives the FBI money every year, more money than they ask for. Why? Because congressmen are afraid of what Hoover knows, afraid of what he might reveal. Every congressman has secrets, maybe small secrets, maybe big ones, but secrets nonetheless. An affair, a drinking problem, a shady business deal, a lie told once, a friend with mob connection. Hoover knows, he always knows. His agents find everything. His files hold everything. He never says this directly. He does not threaten openly. He does not have to. A congressman gives a speech criticizing the FBI. 2 weeks later, a newspaper runs a story about that congressman, about something embarrassing, something private. The congressman calls Hoover. He apologizes. He says he was misunderstood. He praises the FBI now. This happens again and again. People learn the FBI cannot be criticized, cannot be investigated, cannot be reformed. Hoover appears before Congress once a year. He asks for his budget. He always gets it, usually more than he requests. Congressmen praise him. They call him a patriot, a hero, the nation's protector. Are they sincere? Some are just terrified. Presidents come and go. Every 4 or 8 years, a new one. New policies, new priorities, new staff. But Hoover stays. Same office, same job, same files. He knows more than any president. He has been there longer. He has seen more scandals, more secrets, more failures. New presidents meet him. They think they are in charge. They think Hoover works for them. Hoover lets them think this. For a while, he is polite, professional. He provides reports. He answers questions. He seems cooperative. But he decides what information to share. He decides what to investigate. He decides who to watch. Presidents can give orders, but Hoover can ignore them, quietly, politely, but firmly. What can a president do? Fire him? That would cause problems, big problems. Hoover has allies in Congress, in the press, in the military, in law enforcement. Fire Hoover and they all turn against you. Stories leak, investigations begin. Your presidency becomes chaos. So presidents do not fire him. They accommodate him, they work around him, they pretend he is loyal. This is how the system really works, not how civics class says it works, but how it actually works. Power does not flow from the Constitution. It flows from leverage, from information, from fear. Hoover has all three. His files fill rooms, cabinet after cabinet, drawer after drawer, thousands of files, each one a weapon. Some files are about enemies, foreign spies, real threats. These files protect America. But many files are about Americans, politicians, activists, journalists, artists, writers, professors, people who criticize the government, people who protest wars, people who fight for civil rights, people who think differently. Are these people threats? Usually not. But Hoover treats them like threats anyway. He builds files on Martin Luther King Jr., on Eleanor Roosevelt, on Supreme Court justices, on senators and congressmen, on presidents. The files contain everything. Private conversations, personal letters, photos, financial records, medical records, affairs, addictions, mistakes, lies. Nothing is too private, nothing is sacred, everything goes in the files. And the files never disappear. They stay forever, waiting, ready to be used. This is Hoover's empire, built in shadow, hidden in plain sight. Everyone knows it exists. No one dares to challenge it. Not yet. Truman sits at his desk. He reads a memo. His face tightens. The memo is about the FBI, about methods Hoover is using, about programs Truman never approved. Truman does not like this. He believes in rules, in proper channels, in following the law. He calls a meeting. He wants to talk to Hoover, to understand what is happening, to remind him who is president. Hoover arrives on time, always on time. He wears a dark suit. He carries a briefcase. His face shows nothing. The meeting is polite, too polite. Truman asks questions. Hoover provides answers, but not real answers. Careful answers. Answers that say much but reveal little. Truman asks about wiretaps. Hoover says they are used rarely. Only for national security, only when absolutely needed. This is not quite true, but it is not quite a lie either. Hoover speaks in a language of careful words, words that can mean different things. Truman asks about files, about who the FBI investigates, about why. Hoover says the FBI only investigates real threats, people who break laws, people who endanger America. Again, this is not the whole truth, but Hoover does not lie. He just does not tell everything. Truman feels frustrated. He cannot point to a specific lie, but he knows something is wrong. He can feel it. Hoover sits calmly. He has done this before, many times with other presidents. He knows how to handle these meetings. He shows respect. He calls Truman Mr. President. He nods at the right times. He takes notes, but he gives nothing away. He makes no promises. He admits no mistakes. The meeting ends. Hoover leaves. Truman sits alone. He feels unsettled, like he just lost a fight he did not know he was in. Truman writes in his diary that night he does not trust Hoover. He thinks Hoover has too much power, too much independence. But what can he do? Fire him? That would look bad. People respect Hoover. Congress would be angry, the press would ask why, and Hoover knows things. Things about Washington, things about politicians, things about everyone. Fire him and he might talk, might release information, might cause chaos. Truman is trapped, not by law, by politics, by fear. Other problems happen too. Small things, telling things. Truman wants to reform the intelligence community. He wants to create the CIA, a new agency, to coordinate all intelligence work. This makes sense. Different agencies do not talk to each other. They compete. They hide information. America needs better coordination. But Hoover opposes this. He does not say so publicly, but he works against it privately. He tells congressmen the plan is dangerous. He warns about giving too much power to one agency. He spreads doubts. The irony is thick. Hoover has vast power, but he warns against giving power to others. The CIA is created anyway, but smaller than planned, weaker. The FBI keeps most of its authority. Hoover wins. Again, Truman tries other reforms too. He wants better oversight of the FBI, more accountability, regular reports. Hoover agrees on paper. He sends reports, but they contain only what he chooses. The rest stays hidden. Truman tries to place loyalists in the Justice Department, people who will watch Hoover, who will tell Truman what is really happening. But Hoover has allies in justice too, people who have worked with him for years, who owe him favors, who fear him. Information flows to Hoover faster than it flows to the president. This is the reality of bureaucracy. Long-term officials know everything. They control the flow of information. They decide what matters. A president is temporary, 4 years, maybe 8, then gone, but bureaucrats stay. They know the system, they have relationships, they have files. Hoover has been there since 1924. By 1950, that is 26 years. He knows more than anyone, about everyone. Senators call him for advice, military leaders brief him, police chiefs across the country respect him. He is invited to dinners, to private clubs, to important meetings. Some of this is official, some is not, but it all builds his network, his influence, his power. Truman sees this happening, but he cannot stop it. The president's power has limits, informal limits, unwritten limits. He can give orders, but Hoover can delay them, can implement them slowly, can interpret them his own way. He can ask for information, but Hoover can provide partial information, can claim other information is too sensitive, can say he is protecting sources. Every step Truman takes, Hoover blocks or redirects. Not with confrontation, with bureaucracy, with procedure, with polite obstruction. This is how institutional power works. It does not fight openly, it just grinds down opposition, slowly, steadily, until people give up. Truman is a fighter, but this is a fight he cannot win. Not directly. He could go public, could tell America about his concerns, could ask Congress to investigate, but that would look weak, would make him seem like he cannot control his own government, would raise questions about his leadership, and it would make an enemy of Hoover, an enemy with files, with secrets, with power. No president wants that, not Truman, not anyone. So Truman does what other presidents do. He works around Hoover, he accepts the situation, he focuses on things he can control, but the accept burn. He writes angry words in private, he complains to close friends. In public, he says nothing. He stands next to Hoover for photos, he praises the FBI, he acts like everything is fine, because that is what presidents do. They pretend. Knowledge is power. This is not just a saying, it is the truth. Hoover understands this better than anyone. He built his empire on information, on secrets, on knowing what others want to hide. The files are everything. They are his weapon, his shield, his insurance policy. No one knows how many files exist. Thousands, certainly. Maybe tens of thousands. They fill entire rooms at FBI headquarters. Some are official, part of real investigation. These follow rules, have documentation, can be audited, but other files are different. Personal files, secret files, off the books. These files have no oversight, no rules, no limits. They contain whatever Hoover wants them to contain. A senator visits the FBI. Hoover welcomes him warmly. They talk about crime, about communism, about America's safety. Then Hoover mentions something casual, something small. I heard your son had some trouble in college. I hope everything worked out. The senator freaked. He never told anyone about that. It was handled quietly, privately. But Hoover knows. He always knows. The message is clear. I have information about your family. I will not use it. Unless I need to. This is not a direct threat. Hoover never threatens directly. But the senator understands, everyone understands, the FBI watches, everyone learns everything, forgets nothing. Martin Luther King Jr. leads the civil rights movement. He fights for justice, for equality, for change. Hoover hates this. He thinks King is dangerous, a troublemaker, maybe a communist. The FBI investigates King. They tap his phones, they bug his hotel rooms, they follow him everywhere. They learn about his private life, his relationships, his personal struggles. Hoover wants to destroy King, not arrest him, destroy him, ruin his reputation, end his influence. The FBI sends King an anonymous letter. It contains threats. It suggests he should kill himself. This is evil, corrupt, illegal, everything the FBI should not be. But Hoover feels no shame. He thinks he is protecting America, that the ends justify the means. This is how power corrupts. When someone decides they know best, when they place themselves above the law, when they answer to no one. Eleanor Roosevelt speaks out on social issues. He fights for the poor, for minorities, for women. Hoover investigates her too. He builds a file, thousands of pages. He looks for anything to use against her. He finds little. She is careful, principled, but he keeps watching anyway. The file grows. Supreme Court justices are not safe either. Hoover investigates them, learns their habits, their friends, their weaknesses. Why? Because they might rule against the FBI someday. Better to be prepared, better to have leverage. This is paranoia, but it is also strategy. Hoover thinks ahead. Always ahead. Journalists write about the FBI. Some praise it, some criticize it. Those who criticize it face consequences. Their phones are tapped, their sources are identified, their private lives are investigated. Stories appear about them, embarrassing stories in other newspapers from unknown sources. The message spreads: do not investigate the FBI, do not criticize Hoover, or you will pay. Most journalists learn this lesson. They write careful stories, positive stories, safe stories. A few do not learn. They keep investigating. They keep asking questions. Bad things happen to them. Their careers stall, their reputations suffer. Sometimes they lose their jobs. Is this Hoover's doing? No one can prove it, but everyone suspects it. This is how a free press dies. Not from censorship, from fear, from self-censorship, from knowing some stories are too dangerous to tell. Congress should investigate the FBI, should provide oversight, should ask tough questions, but they do not. Not really. They hold hearings, but the hearings are friendly, gentle, congratulatory. Hoover testifies, he gives impressive speeches, he shows crime statistics, he talks about threats facing America. Congressmen thank him, praise him, give him whatever he wants. Why? Because every congressman fears what Hoover knows, what he might reveal, what might appear in newspapers. A few brave congressmen ask hard questions, question the FBI's methods, suggest reforms. These congressmen face problems, investigations of their finances, stories about their personal lives, challenges in their next election. They usually lose, or quit, or stop asking questions. The pattern is clear: oppose Hoover and suffer, support him and prosper. This is not democracy. This is something else, something darker. Truman sees all this. He hears the rumors. He receives complaints. He knows what is happening, but he feels powerless. Hoover is too strong, too connected, too dangerous. Truman could fire him. Legally, he has that power. The president can fire any federal employee. But politically, that would be suicide. Congress would revolt, the press would attack, the public would be confused, and Hoover would fight back with information, with leaks, with chaos. Who knows what Hoover has in his files? What secrets about Truman's administration, about Truman himself? Better not to find out. Better to leave him alone. Better to work around him. This is the calculation every president makes, not just Truman, all of them. Kennedy will make it. Johnson will make it. Nixon will make it. They all fear Hoover. They all leave him alone until he dies, because that is the only way Hoover leaves. Death. Not retirement, not firing. Death. He stays in power for 48 years until 1970, until his heart stops. Only then does his empire end. Only then are the files revealed. Only then does America learn what he did. But by then, the damage is done. The precedent is set. The system is built. Other agencies learn from Hoover, the CIA, the NSA. They build their own empires, their own secrets, their own power. The pattern never died. Truman has been president for 5 years. He has faced many challenges. The end of World War II, the start of the Cold War, the Berlin airlift, the creation of NATO, the Korean War. He made hard decisions, dropped atomic bombs, fired General MacArthur, integrated the military. These were brave choices, controversial choices, but he made them because he thought they were right. But with Hoover, he makes no choices. He avoids confrontation. He looks away. Truman writes in his diary, private words, angry words. He calls the FBI Hoover's private secret police. He says Hoover is dangerous, that he has too much power, that something must be done. But these are just words. Private words, words that change nothing. In public, Truman smiles. He shakes Hoover's hand. He praises the FBI. He signs their budget increases. This is the moment when a president blinks, when he accepts a reality he cannot change. Other people note it. Cabinet members, advisors, senators. They see that Truman cannot control Hoover, that Hoover operates independently, that the FBI answers to no one. This sends a message. If the president cannot control Hoover, who can? The answer is simple. No one. Hoover becomes more bold, more independent. He expands FBI operations. He ignores protocols. He bypasses the White House. Sometimes Truman learns about FBI actions from newspapers. Not from Hoover, not from his own staff, from newspapers. This is humiliating. The president should know what his own government is doing, but Hoover does not tell him, does not ask permission, does not seek approval. Truman could make this a crisis, could demand respect, could force a confrontation, but he does not, because he knows he would lose. And losing publicly would be worse than accepting privately. This is the psychology of power. Real power does not need to be proven. It simply exists, and everyone acknowledges it. Hoover has real power. Truman has formal power. But formal power means little when it cannot be enforced. The presidency is supposed to be supreme. The Constitution says so. Every textbook says so. Every schoolchild learns this. But Truman knows different now. He learned through experience, through frustration, through helplessness. The presidency has limits. unwritten limits. Limits that do not appear in any law, but limits that are real nonetheless. A president can command armies, but he cannot command bureaucrats who do not fear him. A president can veto laws, but he cannot stop investigations by his own FBI. A president can fire officials, but not when firing them would cause more problems than keeping them. This is the truth about American government. It is not simple, not clean, not logical. It is messy, complicated, full of informal power structures, full of unelected officials who cannot be removed, full of institutions that outlast presidents. Truman wanted to believe in the system. He was a student of history. He loved the Constitution. He believed in democracy, but democracy has flaws. Hidden flaws. Flaws that allow someone like Hoover to thrive. Elections cannot touch Hoover. He is not elected. He does not answer to voters. Congress cannot touch him. He intimidates them. He has files on them. The courts cannot touch him. They do not know what he is doing. And when they do, he claims national security. Only the president could touch him. But the president is afraid of the chaos, afraid of the secrets, afraid of losing. So nothing happens. The system continues, Hoover stays, his power grows. Truman's friends notice his frustration. They see him angry after meetings with Hoover. They hear him complain. Some suggest action. Fire him, replace him, take control. But Truman shakes his head. It is not that simple. And it is not. Removing Hoover would take political capital, lots of it. Maybe all of it. Truman needs that capital for other things, for passing laws, for fighting the Korean War, for dealing with Republicans. He cannot spend it all on a fight with Hoover, a fight he might not win. This is the calculation, the cold, practical calculation. It makes sense politically, but it means accepting defeat, accepting that some parts of government are beyond presidential control. This acceptance changes Truman. He becomes more cynical, more careful, more aware of limits. He stops believing the presidency is all-powerful. He sees it for what it is. One important office among many, with influence, yes, but not with absolute power. This realization is devastating, not because Truman is vain, but because he believed in the system, believed it worked the way it was supposed to. Now he knows it does not, and he cannot fix it, cannot even talk about it publicly, because admitting presidential weakness would make everything worse, would embolden others, would create more problems. So he suffers in silence, writes angry diary entries, complains to close friends, but does nothing. This is the moment historians miss. They write about Truman's decisions, his policies, his speeches, but they miss this quiet surrender, this internal defeat, this acceptance of powerlessness. It is not dramatic, no crisis, no headlines, just a slow realization that spreads through his mind. He is president, but he is not in charge. Not completely, not of everything. Other forces matter, other power centers exist, and some of them cannot be controlled. This is the truth about American power. It is divided, fragmented, competed over. The president is one player, an important player, but just one player. Hoover is another player, playing a different game by different rules with different tools, and in this particular game, Hoover is winning. Truman knows this, accepts this, hates this, but can do nothing about it. Truman leaves office in January 1953. Eisenhower becomes president. The same drama repeats. Eisenhower meets Hoover. Eisenhower learns about FBI power. Eisenhower decides not to fight. Then Kennedy, same pattern. He wants to fire Hoover. His brother Robert, the Attorney General, tries to rein him in. But Hoover survives. Again. Then Johnson. Johnson fears Hoover more than anyone. He knows Hoover has files on him, personal files, damaging files, so Johnson does nothing. Promotes Hoover, praises Hoover, keeps Hoover happy, then Nixon. Nixon hates Hoover, wants him gone, but fears what might happen if he acts. Hoover finally dies in 1972. In office, still FBI director, after 48 years. His death is the only thing that ends his reign. Nothing else could. But the system he built does not die with him. It continues, it evolves, it spreads. The FBI remains powerful, more professional now, more accountable, but still powerful, still independent. Other agencies learn from Hoover's model. The CIA, the NSA, the DEA, they build their own bureaucracies, their own secrets, their own power bases. They operate in shadows, they claim national security, they resist oversight. Presidents come and go, but these agencies remain, growing, expanding. entrenching. This is Hoover's legacy, not catching criminals, not fighting communism, but creating a model for unaccountable power. A model where institutions become stronger than elected officials, where secrecy trumps transparency, where fear maintains control. After Hoover dies, his files are discovered. Thousands of files on everyone important. Congress investigates. They learn what he did, the illegal wiretaps, the blackmail, the intimidation, the abuse of power. Americans are shocked, angry, betrayed. How did this happen? How did one man gain so much power? How did he keep it so long? The answers are uncomfortable. He kept it because everyone let him, because people were afraid, because institutions failed, Congress failed. They had oversight responsibility, but they did not use it. They praised Hoover instead of investigating him. The Justice Department failed. They supervised the FBI on paper, but in reality, Hoover supervised them. The courts failed. They trusted the FBI, believed FBI testimony, approved FBI requests without questioning enough. The press failed. Some reporters investigated, but most did not. They accepted FBI claims. They feared FBI power, and presidents failed. From Roosevelt to Nixon, they all knew about Hoover's methods, his files, his intimidation, but they did nothing. They chose convenience over courage. They chose political survival over reform. This is the real scandal. Not that one man was corrupt, but that the entire system allowed it, enabled it, participated in it. The lessons should have been clear. Create better oversight, limit FBI independence, protect civil liberties, prevent future Hoovers. Some reforms were made. The FBI got new rules, new directors with term limits, better accountability. But the fundamental structure remained. Intelligence agencies still operate in secret, still resist oversight, still accumulate power. Why? Because the problems Hoover exploited still exist. Fear still works. Tell people about threats and they accept anything. Surveillance, secrecy, reduced freedom. Information is still power. Agencies that control information control decisions, control narratives, control outcomes, and institutions still outlast politicians. A senator serves 6 years. A president serves 4 or 8. But agencies last forever. This creates a permanent government, a deep state, some call it, not a conspiracy, but a reality. Career officials who stay for decades, who know every procedure, who control information flow, who have their own interests and agendas. Elected officials come in with plans, but the permanent government shapes those plans, slows them, changes them, sometimes stops them. This is not always bad. Sometimes it provides stability, sometimes it prevents bad decisions, sometimes it protects important values, but sometimes it prevents accountability, prevents reform, prevents change that Americans vote for. The Truman-Hoover dynamic shows this problem clearly. An elected president versus an unelected bureaucrat. The bureaucrat wins. This should not happen in a democracy, but it does. It did. It still does. Modern presidents face similar challenges. Intelligence agencies that operate in secret, that claim national security, that resist change. Presidents who want to reform these agencies face obstacles.